I stood frozen in my bedroom doorway, staring at the white fabric scattered across my floor like snow. My wedding dress, the one I'd spent months choosing, the one I'd dreamed about wearing, was destroyed. Shredded. Ribbons of lace and silk hung from my sister Lila's hands, and she was holding scissors. My mother's sewing scissors, the sharp ones from the kitchen drawer. My heart stopped beating for what felt like forever. "What did you do?" I whispered. My voice came out broken, barely audible. Lila looked up at me with this strange expression, half guilt, half pride. She dropped the scissors on my bed and crossed her arms. "You're welcome," she said calmly. "I just saved you from the biggest mistake of your life." I couldn't move. Couldn't breathe. This wasn't real. This couldn't be happening. "You're not ready to marry someone who's just going to control you, Sophie," she continued, like she was explaining something simple to a child. "Drake is all wrong for you." My hands started shaking. The room started spinning. "You just destroyed the happiest day of my life," I managed to say. I dropped to my knees beside the torn fabric, my fingers trembling as they touched what used to be delicate lace sleeves. The beading I'd loved so much was scattered across the carpet, little pearls rolling away like tears. Each piece I picked up felt heavier than it should. This dress had meant everything. I'd saved for months to afford it, worked extra shifts at the hospital where I was a nurse. It wasn't designer, but it was mine. And now it was ruined. I heard footsteps thundering up the stairs. Mom burst through the doorway, her face flushed. She looked at me on the floor, at the dress, at Lila standing there with her arms still crossed. Mom gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. For a moment, I thought she'd scream at Lila. I thought she'd fix this somehow. Instead, she knelt beside me and whispered, "Sophie, honey, don't make a scene. Lila's just emotional right now. You know how she gets." I stared at her in disbelief. "Don't make a scene?" I repeated. "Mom, she destroyed my wedding dress 3 hours before my ceremony." This wasn't the first time. That thought hit me like a truck as I sat there surrounded by torn fabric. Lila had always found ways to ruin my big moments. She just usually did it more subtly. When I'd graduated from nursing school, top of my class, Lila had announced her engagement at my celebration dinner. Everyone had spent the evening congratulating her instead of me. When I'd gotten my first job at the city hospital, she'd told everyone at family dinner that I'd only been hired because they needed to fill a diversity quota. She'd said it like she was joking, but the damage was done. Uncle Ray had actually believed her. Last year, when I'd finally saved enough to buy my own apartment, she'd posted on social media about how some people need daddy's money to succeed, and some of us do it alone even though I'd never asked our parents for a dime. And she'd gotten a down payment gift for her house. But this was different. This was war. And I was done being the victim. "Sophie, listen to me," Lila said, her voice taking on that patronizing tone she always used when she wanted to sound wise. "You're marrying way too fast. You've only known Drake for 2 years. And he's rich, and you're not. Don't you see how that looks? You'll end up divorced in 3 years, miserable and embarrassed." I stood up slowly, pieces of my dress still clutched in my hands. "This isn't about concern," I said quietly. "It's jealousy, Lila. It's always been jealousy." Her face flushed red. "Jealous? Of you? Please. I'm trying to protect you from yourself. You're too naive to see that Drake is just what?" I interrupted. "Successful? Kind? Actually in love with me." She laughed, actually laughed. "You'll thank me one day, Sophie." When you're not trapped in a marriage with someone who only sees you as a trophy wife, you'll realize I did you a favor. Mom put her hand on my shoulder. "Maybe we should all calm down and talk about this rationally." But I was done talking. I was done with all of it. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I pulled it out with shaking hands. "The wedding planner, Sophie. We need you at the venue in 1 hour for final prep. Hair and makeup are waiting." "Is everything okay?" Everything was not okay. Nothing was okay. My dress was in pieces. My sister had just sabotaged my wedding. And my mother was acting like I was overreacting. Another text came through, this time from Drake. "Your mom just called and said there's some kind of delay. Are you all right?" I'm starting to worry. My throat tightened. How was I supposed to explain this? How could I tell him that my own sister had done this? That my family had once again chosen to protect Lila instead of me? I couldn't type. My fingers hovered over the keyboard, but no words came. What was I supposed to say? Sorry, running late because my sister destroyed my wedding dress to save me from you? The absurdity of it made me want to laugh and cry at the same time. I shoved my phone back in my pocket without responding. My chest felt tight, like someone was squeezing my ribcage. I locked myself in the bathroom and slid down against the door. The tears came then, hot and angry and heartbroken all at once. I pressed my hands over my mouth to muffle the sobs. I didn't want to give Lila the satisfaction of hearing me cry. There was a soft knock. Sweetheart. Mom's voice was gentle, concerned. Maybe we should postpone the wedding. Just for a few weeks. Give everyone time to calm down. Lila's really fragile right now. She's been under so much stress with her job and what about me? I whispered through the door. What about what I'm feeling? What about my wedding? Silence. Then, you're stronger than she is, Sophie. You always have been. You can handle this. She can't. That was it. That was always the excuse. I was the strong one, the responsible one, so I had to be the one who compromised. I had to be the one who shrunk myself so Lila could feel bigger. I was so tired of being strong. I was so tired of putting everyone else's feelings before my own. Not today. Today was supposed to be about me. My phone rang. Emily's name flashed on the screen, my best friend since college, my maid of honor, the sister I'd chosen instead of the one I'd been born with. I answered, and before she could say hello, I broke down completely. She ripped it, Emily. Lila actually ripped my dress. She cut it into pieces with scissors. There was a pause, then Emily's voice came through, low and dangerous. I'm going to kill her. There's nothing left, I sobbed. It's destroyed. The whole thing. And my mom wants me to postpone because Lila's fragile. Fragile? Emily nearly shouted. That manipulative. She took a breath. Okay. Listen to me, Sophie. Don't let her win. You still have time. Time for what? I don't have a dress. You have options. Remember what Theo said? Theo. My friend from the hospital, the one who'd left nursing to become a fashion designer. He'd offered months ago to make me a backup dress, just in case. I'd thought he was being paranoid. Now I realized he'd been prophetic. Is it ready? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Let me call him, Emily said. Don't you dare give up on today. Do you hear me? If this story is hitting home, don't forget to subscribe because the best part is still coming. I wiped my tears and stood up, looking at myself in the bathroom mirror. My makeup was smudged, my hair half done from the morning prep I'd started before coming home to change. But my eyes looked different. Harder. Determined. I wasn't going to run away from my own life. Not anymore. Not for Lila, not for anyone. I unlocked the bathroom door and walked past my mother, past Lila, who was now sitting on my bed looking almost pleased with herself. I grabbed my purse and keys. Where are you going? Mom asked, alarm in her voice. To get married, I said simply. Sophie, you can't. You don't have I'll figure it out, I interrupted. Like I always do. I called Emily as I got in my car. Did you reach Theo? He's waiting for you at his studio, she said. Sophie, there's something you should know about the dress. What? It's expensive. Like, really expensive. He made it as his portfolio piece. My hands tightened on the steering wheel. How expensive? $50,000. My breath caught. That was more than I made in 6 months. I can't afford he's lending it to you. We'll figure out the rest later. Just go. Theo's studio was on the other side of the city, in the arts district where old warehouses had been converted into creative spaces. I made it there in 20 minutes, definitely breaking several traffic laws. My hair was a mess, my makeup was ruined, but I didn't care. Theo met me at the door. He took one look at my face and pulled me into a hug. Emily told me what happened, he said. I'm so sorry. Can I see it? I asked. He led me through the studio, past dress forms and fabric bolts, to a private room in the back. And there it was, hanging on a mannequin like it was waiting for me. The dress was breathtaking. Hand-beaded silk and ivory, with intricate lace detailing that looked like it had been woven by fairies. The bodice was covered in tiny crystals that caught the light, and the skirt flowed like water. It had long sleeves, something I'd always wanted but couldn't afford in my first dress, and a train that would make me look like royalty. "Theo," I breathed. "This is yours," he finished. "For today. You deserve to feel untouchable, Sophie. After everything your sisters put you through over the years, you deserve this." I slipped into the gown and Theo helped with the endless buttons running down the back. When he turned me toward the mirror, I didn't recognize myself. This wasn't the girl who'd been on her knees crying over torn fabric an hour ago. This was someone else. Someone powerful. The dress fit perfectly, like it had been made specifically for my body. The beading caught every bit of light, making me shimmer. The lace sleeves were exactly what I'd dreamed of. I looked like a princess. No, I looked like a queen. "How did you know my size?" I asked, my voice thick with emotion. Theo smiled. "Emily and I have been planning this for months. We measured one of your jackets. I had a feeling you might need a backup plan where Lila was concerned." My phone buzzed. "Emily, car's outside. Come get married. Your story isn't over, it's just beginning." I looked at myself one more time, taking in every detail. This dress cost more than my car. It was a work of art. And for today, it was mine. "Thank you," I told Theo, tears threatening again. "Go," he said. "And send me pictures. I want to see her face when you walk in." The venue was a historic mansion on the edge of town, with gardens full of roses and a fountain in the courtyard. As Emily's car pulled up to the entrance, I could see guests milling around outside, whispering. They were checking their phones, looking worried. The ceremony was supposed to start in 15 minutes. I could hear fragments of conversation as I stepped out of the car. "Is she even coming? Maybe she got cold feet." I heard there was some kind of family emergency. Then the murmuring stopped. Everyone turned. Silence rippled through the crowd like a wave. I stood there in $50,000 of silk and crystals, my head held high, and walked toward the entrance. The crowd parted automatically, people stepping back to let me through. Someone gasped. I saw Drake's mother, tears already forming in her eyes. I saw my Aunt Shelley, her mouth hanging open. And I saw my own mother, standing near the door with a champagne glass in her hand. The glass slipped from her fingers, shattering on the stone pathway. But I kept walking, my train flowing behind me like I was floating. I'd never felt more powerful in my entire life. Lila was standing near the entrance, wearing a dark blue dress and holding a clipboard. She'd insisted on being part of the wedding coordination team, despite Emily's objections. Now I knew why. She'd wanted a front-row seat to my humiliation. When she saw me, her face went completely white. The clipboard clattered to the ground. You bought another dress?" she stammered, her voice cracking. I stopped directly in front of her, meeting her eyes with a calm I didn't know I possessed. "No," I said clearly, making sure everyone nearby could hear. "I upgraded." Her mouth opened and closed like a fish. "But your dress was destroyed," I finished for her. "Yes. Thank you for that reminder." I stepped past her, my shoulder brushing hers, and continued toward the bridal suite. The whispers behind me grew louder, but I didn't care. I could hear people asking what happened, why there were two dresses, what Lila had done. Let them talk. Let them figure it out. For once, I wasn't going to protect her from the consequences of her actions. Mom tried to follow me, but Emily stepped in her path. "I don't think so," Emily said firmly. "Today is Sophie's day. You had your chance to support her." Inside the bridal suite, my bridesmaids surrounded me with tears and exclamations. "Oh my God, Sophie. That dress is incredible. What happened?" "We heard something about long story." I cut them off gently. Short version. Lila destroyed my original dress. This one is borrowed. And I'm getting married in, I checked my phone 8 minutes. They exploded into action, fixing my makeup, adjusting my veil, making sure every detail was perfect. Through the window, I could see guests filing into the ceremony space, a beautiful garden with white chairs arranged in rows. I could see Drake at the altar, looking anxious. My heart squeezed. He didn't know. He was probably worried sick. Emily touched my shoulder. "Ready?" "More than I've ever been," I said. And I meant it. The music started, a string quartet playing the processional I'd chosen months ago. My bridesmaids lined up, and one by one, they walked down the aisle. Then it was my turn. The doors opened, and I stepped out into the sunlight. Every single person turned to look at me. And the gasps, I would remember those gasps for the rest of my life. Drake stood at the altar, his best man beside him, both of them in perfectly tailored suits. But he only had eyes for me. As I walked down the aisle, his expression changed from confusion to awe to something that made my heart soar. Love. Pure, uncomplicated love. He met me halfway, tradition be damned, and took my hands in his. What happened? He whispered urgently. Your mom said there was a dress issue. I've been losing my mind. Are you okay? I smiled up at him, and for the first time all day, it felt genuine. Nothing worth missing this moment, I said softly. His eyes searched mine, trying to understand. I squeezed his hands. I'll tell you everything later. But right now, I just want to marry you. He smiled then, that beautiful smile that had made me fall in love with him in the first place. Then let's do this, he said. He offered his arm, and together we walked the rest of the way to the altar. I could feel Lila's eyes burning into my back from somewhere in the crowd. I could hear Mom sniffling. But none of it mattered. All that mattered was Drake beside me and the promise we were about to make. The officiant was an old family friend, someone who'd known Drake since childhood. He smiled warmly at both of us. Dearly beloved, he began, his voice carrying across the garden. We are gathered here today to witness the union of Sophie and Drake in matrimony. The ceremony flowed like a dream. Traditional vows, personal promises we'd written to each other, the exchange of rings. When Drake said, I do, his voice was steady and sure. When it was my turn, I looked into his eyes and said the words I'd been waiting to say, I do. The crowd erupted in applause as we kissed, and for a moment, everything was perfect. Until we turned to walk back down the aisle, and I saw my mother's face in the front row. She wasn't smiling. She was glaring at me, not at Lila. As if I'd done something wrong by not canceling my wedding to protect my sister's feelings. Beside her, Lila sat with her arms crossed, her jaw tight. But I didn't look away. I met her gaze head-on, my hand tight in Drake's, and kept walking. I'd spent my whole life shrinking myself for her. Not anymore. Today, I was taking up all the space I deserved. The reception was in full swing. Dinner had been served, toasts had been made, and the dance floor was packed with guests celebrating. Drake and I had just finished our first dance when Lila appeared at my elbow. We need to talk, she hissed, grabbing my arm. I pulled away from her grip. I don't think we do. You can't just pretend nothing happened, she said, her voice rising above the music. Several people turned to look. You're right, I said calmly. I can't pretend. That's why I'm addressing it. I nodded to Emily, who was standing near the entrance. She immediately signaled to the security guards we'd hired for the event. Drake had insisted on having them, given the size of the guest list and his family's profile. Two men in dark suits approached. Ma'am, one of them said to Lila, his voice professional and neutral. We need you to come with us. Lila's eyes widened. What? No. I'm her sister. You're a guest who damaged the bride's property and caused significant distress, I said clearly. And you're no longer welcome at my reception. Gasps rippled through the nearby crowd. Phones came out. This was going to be on social media within minutes. But I didn't care. Sophie, you can't be serious, Lila said, her voice cracking. For the first time, she looked genuinely panicked. I'm your sister. You can't kick me out of your wedding. Watch me, I replied. The security guards moved closer, waiting for my signal. Mom pushed through the crowd, her face red. Sophie Marie, stop this right now. This is embarrassing. She's family. So am I said, my voice steady despite my racing heart. But you've never treated me like it mattered. Mom's face crumbled. That's not fair. You're right. It's not fair. It hasn't been fair for 28 years. I turned back to Lila. You destroyed my wedding dress because you couldn't stand to see me happy. You've spent our entire lives trying to make yourself feel bigger by making me feel small. I'm done. Sophie, please, Lila said, and for a second, she almost sounded sincere. I was trying to help. You thought you'd ruin my day and I'd fall apart like I always do, I interrupted. You thought I'd cancel the wedding and let you be the center of attention again. But not this time. I nodded to the security guards. Please escort her out. They moved to either side of Lila, not touching her but making it clear she needed to go. She looked around wildly, searching for support. Some family members looked uncomfortable, but no one intervened. You're going to regret this, Lila shouted as they guided her toward the exit. He's going to leave you. You'll end up alone and miserable, and then you'll realize I was right. Her voice echoed across the reception space. Guests stared in shock. Drake stepped up beside me, his hand finding mine. Actually, he said, his voice carrying clearly, the only thing Sophie's going to regret is not doing this sooner. Lila's face went scarlet. You don't know her like I do. You don't know I know she's brave, compassionate, and has put up with your jealousy for far too long, Drake said firmly. And I know that from now on, she won't have to. The security guards escorted Lila through the doors and out of sight. The room stayed silent for a few seconds. Then someone started clapping. Drake's cousin, then his sister, then Emily and my bridesmaids. Soon, the whole room was applauding. One of my bridesmaids said loudly, "That's how you handle family drama, with grace and power." The rest of the reception was incredible. Without Lila's presence darkening the room, I felt lighter. Free. I danced with Drake, with his father, with my Uncle Ray who apologized for believing Lila's lies over the years. I should have known better, he said gruffly. You were always the good one. I shook my head. It's not about being good or bad. It's about being respected. He nodded thoughtfully. As the evening wore on, people kept approaching me to compliment the dress, to say they were proud of me for standing up for myself, to share their own stories of difficult family members. It felt like something had shifted, not just in my family, but in how people saw me. I wasn't Sweet Sophie anymore, the one who kept the peace. I was just Sophie. Strong enough to be kind, but strong enough to set boundaries too. Drake pulled me aside during a slow song. You want to tell me the full story now? He asked gently. So I did. I told him everything about finding the destroyed dress, about Mom's reaction, about Theo's emergency backup plan. His face darkened when I described Lila's justification. She said she was saving you from me, he said quietly. I'm so sorry. You have nothing to apologize for, I said firmly. This wasn't about you. It was about her needing control. Drake pulled me closer as we swayed to the music. Why didn't you call me right away? When you found the dress? I rested my head on his shoulder. Because I wanted to prove something to myself. That I could handle it alone. That I didn't always need someone to rescue me. You don't, he agreed. But you also don't have to do everything alone. That's what marriage is, right? We're a team now. I smiled against his shoulder. A team sounds nice. Besides, he added, his tone lightening, if I'd known, I would have wanted to be there when you showed up in that dress. The look on your sister's face must have been priceless. It really was, I admitted. We danced in silence for a moment, then Drake said, I know you stood tall alone today. But from now on, if you want, we can stand together. I'd like that, I whispered. And I meant it with everything I had. I'd learned I was strong enough to face anything alone. But that didn't mean I had to anymore. The next morning, I woke up in our hotel suite with Drake beside me and a flood of notifications on my phone. Apparently, someone had posted photos of the dress and the security escort online. The story had spread like wildfire. Bride turns wedding sabotage into moment of power, one headline read. Sister destroys wedding dress, gets escorted out of reception, said another. There were photos of me in Theo's masterpiece, looking confident and radiant. Photos of the moment I'd walked down the aisle. Even a few grainy videos of Lila being escorted out. The comments were overwhelmingly supportive. People sharing their own stories of jealous siblings, of family members who couldn't let them shine. One woman wrote, I needed to see this. I've been letting my sister walk all over me for years. Today, I'm setting boundaries. I closed the browser and put my phone on silent. I didn't need the validation from strangers online. I knew what I'd done was right. Drake stirred beside me. Good morning, Mrs. Hayes, he said sleepily. How does it feel? Different, I admitted. But good. Any regrets? He asked. I thought about it honestly. No. None. By afternoon, my phone was ringing constantly. I'd been ignoring most calls, but when I saw it was Lila for the third time, I finally answered. What do you want? I said, my voice flat. You humiliated me, she said immediately. She was crying. Everyone saw. It's all over social media. People are calling me a terrible sister. My friends are asking questions. How could you do this to me? I sat up straighter, anger flooding through me. How could I do this to you? I repeated. Lila, you destroyed my wedding dress. You tried to ruin my wedding day. And you're upset because people found out? I was trying to help, she insisted. You thought you'd sabotage my happiness and get away with it like you always do, I interrupted. But not this time. I'm done covering for you. She sobbed harder. Everyone hates me now. Mom is barely speaking to me. Dad's disappointed. This is all your fault. No, I said firmly. This is the consequence of your actions. You did this yourself. I just stopped protecting you from it. She hung up on me. I stared at my phone for a moment, then blocked her number. Drake appeared with coffee. Everything okay? Getting there, I said. 2 days later, Mom called. I almost didn't answer, but Drake encouraged me to hear her out. Maybe she's ready to apologize, he suggested. I wasn't so sure, but I answered anyway. Hi, Mom. Sophie. Her voice was strained. Your father and I would like to talk to you about what happened at the wedding. What about it? You embarrassed Lila in front of everyone. She's devastated. I closed my eyes and counted to 5. Mom, Lila destroyed my wedding dress. She sabotaged my wedding day. She deserved to be removed. She's your sister, Mom said, like that explained everything. She's family. You should forgive her. Then she can start acting like family, I replied calmly. She can apologize genuinely. She can acknowledge what she did was wrong. She can respect my boundaries. She already said she was sorry. No, she said she was trying to help. That's not an apology. That's an excuse. Mom sighed heavily. You've changed, Sophie. You used to be so understanding. No, I corrected gently. I used to be a doormat. There's a difference. There was a long silence. Finally, Mom said, I don't know what to do here. You don't have to do anything, I said. Just accept that my relationship with Lila is my choice to make. 3 months passed. Drake and I settled into married life, and it was better than I'd imagined. We found a rhythm, work, dinners together, weekend adventures. We were happy. I'd stopped answering Mom's calls when they were just about giving Lila another chance. But one Tuesday afternoon, she called with a different tone. Sophie? I was wondering if you'd like to have lunch. Just you and me. No mention of Lila. No guilt trip. Just an invitation. I hesitated, then agreed. We met at a small cafe downtown, the kind with outdoor seating and good coffee. Mom looked older somehow, more tired. We ordered, made small talk about the weather and Drake's new job, and then she said quietly, You've changed. I braced myself for criticism. Instead, she continued, You're stronger. More confident. I see it in how you carry yourself. Is that a bad thing? I asked carefully. She shook her head. No. It's just different from how I raised you. I always taught you to keep the peace, to be understanding. To make myself smaller, I added. She winced but nodded. Yes. And I'm sorry for that. I see now how much I asked you to sacrifice for Lila. It wasn't everything I needed to hear, but it was a start. A year after the wedding, Drake and I were walking through the downtown shopping district. We passed a bridal boutique, and I paused to look in the window. A young bride-to-be stood inside, staring at herself in the mirror. Even from outside, I could see the worry on her face. Something made me walk in. Drake followed, curious. I approached the bride carefully. I'm sorry to interrupt, I said. But you look beautiful. She turned, startled, then gave a small, tight smile. Thank you. My sister doesn't like this dress. She says it's too much. Too flashy. That people will think I'm showing off. My heart clenched. I knew that feeling. Can I tell you something? I asked. She nodded. Never let anyone make you feel small in your own dress. This is your day. Your moment. You deserve to take up space. Her eyes filled with tears. Really? Really, I said firmly. She smiled then, genuinely, and turned back to the mirror with new confidence. I walked out of the shop, Drake beside me. That was nice of you, he said. I just know what it's like, I replied. To let someone dim your light. He took my hand. But not anymore. No, I agreed, smiling. Not anymore. I was finally free. Free from guilt, from people-pleasing, from shrinking myself for others' comfort. I was just me, and that was more than enough. Thank you so much for watching. If it resonated with you, if you've ever had to stand up to someone who tried to dim your light, please subscribe and share this with someone who needs to hear it. Your support means everything, and it helps me bring more empowering stories like this to life. Remember, you deserve to take up space. Never let anyone convince you otherwise. Until next time, keep shining.